You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Episode 9 of Punk Vacation, an unofficial Vinegar Syndrome podcast. Um, Apologies for those of y'all that have heard this 8 times already, but I want to say it again. I'm looking to find the joy in unfettered creativity through this podcast. I want to try to bring awareness and context to movies of any budget from anywhere in the world during any time in history. I think to me that captures the spirit of Vinegar Syndrome fairly well. Personally, I've been a subscriber since Black Friday of 2021. And through a different podcast, I've interviewed a lot of the OCN partner labels. So I just love this label. I've been watching Vinegar Syndrome become a little bit of an industry powerhouse in the distribution game and publishing game. And I want to track to see how high they can go. So, as always, I have a guest, and I'm extremely excited to be talking for the first time to a film historian and a writer of esoteric and outre culture, Heather Drain. Heather, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I can't remember exactly how long we've been looking for schedules to line up, and a big part of it is my fault because my work got busy. But thank you so much for doing this.
Oh my God, no, this is awesome, and I love what you're doing, and I love Vinegar Syndrome. Your intro there just made me realize, one of the first things I ever saw by them,
Okay.
it was, and I think this was one of the first things they released
Mhm.
several years ago, was the original Blu-ray release of the Lost Films of Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Yes, yes, yes.
And at the time I was writing for Dangerous Minds, and I had written them being like, hey, I would love to write about this movie. And they very generously sent me a copy. Some places will just, at this point, I think, send you like screeners via links, which makes sense. It saves way more money. But I was just immediately floored. Like, I to me it was like, wow, this label it's a Valentine continually to, I think, to people that love anything that is off the beaten track with cinema.
Yeah. Within the first 10 releases, my story that's similar to yours was when I saw the telephone book.
Oh, I love that film so much.
How
Yes.
how do people not talk about that more? Like that movie is legitimately an amazing film.
Oh my God. No, it's brilliant. It is brilliant. That's one. There's certain films that I've written about, but it's been like so many years
Mhm.
that I kind of have in the back of my head where I love them so much. I want to like return and do like new article work
Oh,
about
sure.
them. And that's one of them. Yeah, that is an absolutely just stunner,
Yeah.
absolutely stunner of a film.
Yep. Yeah. Uh, I want to get into you a lot and have people give a chance to, learn more about you and your work both in and outside of Vinegar Syndrome. But before I do, I guess I want to set the stage because this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. So typically the episode around the first of the month is specifically targeted to come out around announcements. But
Mhm.
because this is partner month, they don't have standard announcements. So what I thought we would do, if you're okay with this, Heather, is just basically have this as a chance to look at the work you've done with Vinegar Syndrome, and because you've done work with some of the partner labels, also bring in some of that flavor. So instead of just focusing on the December releases, maybe open it up a little bit because they put out 18 to 20 a month. So there are so many movies, even in 2024, that have come out on these partner labels that are worth talking about and putting some light on. And then using it as an episode to do that, and then just get to know you better. Are you okay if we go that route?
That sounds fun.
Great. So before we jump into the movies, you mentioned you've been a writer. So you
Mhm.
mentioned Dangerous Minds. Can you, if you have it in your mental palace or your mental castle, what mental Mental
I
Palace?
like that mental palace.
What?
Yeah, that's better than the mental dewdrop bin that I usually think of my brain. So I palace is gives me way more a sense of regalness that I deserve. So I'll take
Okay,
it.
good. Good. I'll do that. Do you remember all the different publications that you've kind of been a part of?
Yes.
Read?
That I do. That I do. Especially print, but also, I mean, Dangerous Minds was web. But yeah, no, I mean, I got my start in the pretty much, I mean, zine, the print scenes at
Mhm.
that point were pretty much dying, if not almost totally dead. But I got into the very first one that ever published me was the Exploitation Journal
Yep.
by Keith Crocker, who's absolutely one of the most generous editors, or one of the most generous friends, also independent director in his own right. And he encouraged me. I was already writing fiction, and I wrote an article about David Schmoller's Crawl Space,
Yep.
which a few years later I sent to David Schmoller, which I can't believe I did that now. That's the but he liked it, so it all worked out. Thank God. Sweet man. But yeah, no, I've did some article works for Ultra Violent magazine, Scream, that's with two E's. I did some work for them. I did work for Dangerous Minds, Video Watchdog. I was on their staff for a little bit. Um, Diabolique
Oh,
later
yeah.
on. Print work, more print magazines. Jeremy Ritchie's Soledad magazine, as
Okay.
well as Art Decades. And of course, Jeremy Ritchie, if anybody doesn't know, he's gone on to do this amazing book on Sylvia Christel, that Cult Epic. Speaking of boutique labels that have released, it's a gorgeous book, and Jeremy's wonderful writer and wonderful researcher. Um, but yeah, I even got to write for Rue Morgue. I think that was last year. I did a article on Vern Langdon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who he's one of my art heroes, famous monster mask maker, professional magician, clown, musician, a wrestler. Vern Langdon was literally one of the most fascinating human beings to ever lived, and I adore him. Um, but yeah, and that covers most of them. I'm sure when we get done recording, I'll remember something really obvious and I'll feel like a complete dumbass. But that covers the bulk of it. I've done a few things for like other blogs and stuff too. I have a piece on the Rialto Report. When they interviewed Jerry Butler, they published as a little like bonus my piece on raw talent. I'm really proud of that actually because I love the Rialto Report and I think they do absolutely stunning work. Ashley and April are also just like sweethearts and they're really doing I think the Lord's work with trying to get the stories behind the scenes of classic adult cinema out there. And
Yeah.
that's the thing to me, all of this is all about preservation, whether it's writing about it and trying to keep these things fresh in people's minds. Um, getting to see companies like Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, think about how many films they have like kind of pulled up from obscurity
Oh, yeah.
and dusted them off and have given them the love and treatment that I think any of us like film lovers, that it just makes our hearts happy to see.
I mean, even if you think about the spirit of Vinegar Syndrome, even the seven Forgotten Jolly sets, I mean, that's very much in line with
Mm.
the spirit of what they're trying to do, right? These ones that don't get they don't get eight releases a year or whatever.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's just the only thing is like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, God, I need to like start selling a kidney or something because I just got the latest Forgotten Gialli one. I'd love to get the older ones. But I had to get the one that's got Obsession, A Taste for Fear on it because I've wanted to see that movie literally for years.
Have you seen it yet?
No, because I just got the set recently, but
Heather, holy cow. That movie, like, I watch a lot of movies just for not only the podcast stuff, but also I just like movies, right? Once or twice a year, there's a movie that actually like floors me, and I'm just like, what the fuck? How have I not seen this? That's what Obsession did to me.
Yeah, see, that's what I've been no pun intended obsessed with.
Yeah,
I remember reading a little tiny synopsis about it when I was a kid because it aired on like I'm sure Cinemax. It
sure.
had to be Cinemax right back in the 90s. And of course anything that like looked a little lurid you remember as a kid because that's like the forbidden, you know. And but of course I never got to see it. And then years later I saw a trailer and I was like, fuck, I need this movie. But it was like really out of print for a long time. And
Yeah,
so then I saw it was on this beautiful, gorgeous box set with two other films, like because I know Mystere.
sure. Yeah.
And what is the third one? Because that one
Um,
also, I saw a trailer or like some clips of the third one, and that one looks great too. Like I was like, God, this is like banger after banger.
it's good. Although I will say, I'm looking it up right now because I don't remember the name. I will say that in my mind, there was a pretty big drop. Oh shoot, they're not showing their titles right now. I can
Oh, that's right. We
I
got
can go pull up
blocked.
on my shelf in just a second. But wait, is it Crucible? Anyways, um, I'll go pull it off my shelf in just a second. But I think Obsession and Mystere are honestly fairly equal to me. Like
Mm. Oh,
what
nice.
Carol Bouquet is able to do in Mystere is amazing. I was kind of I really liked her in her roles in Louise Buñuel's movies.
Mhm.
She was fine in Bond. I mean, whatever. She was serviceable in Bond.
I always
But
forgot she was a Bond girl. I always think of her as Benwell, and I think she was also oh God, this one Gerard Depardieu movie I remember seeing as a kid, something called like Too Beautiful for You.
yeah, I don't know, and I
Um,
haven't seen them
but yeah, no, I always forget about the Bond thing with
yet.
her because I'm just like she did all these other bigger movies.
No, totally. But she's really good in Mystere. It's a really good movie. Very, very good, Jolly. And anyways, but yeah, Obsession. Holy cow! Like that's just that. Anyways, by chance, I don't mean to put you on the spot by like specific movies, but 2 years ago, Deaf Crocodile had a release called the Chakram Mokri set, and one of the movies was called Fish and Cat. It's an Iranian movie about 6 or 7 years old.
Ooh.
Okay. Anyways, that was
No,
one of
I need to get that. See, I need to write this stuff down. There's so many.
the.
That's the thing. It's like an obscene bounty.
That's I was gonna say, going back to your wallet comment, don't write it down because it's okay. You'll see it. Um, there's always a million things to watch. Yeah, but that was one of the last times where I remember just being completely floored like this watching Obsession. So, um, okay, so Vinegar Syndrome is great. In
Yes.
conclusion, so you wrote for all these zines and publications and online publications and
Hmm.
blogs, and why film? Like, is it have you just always kind of been obsessed with movies? Like why are you writing so much about film as opposed to other things? 'Cause you write about music a lot as well, right?
Yes. Now, I mean, I ever since I can remember, um, I mean, art, and when I say art to me, that encompasses like film, music, literature, um, but film in particular, like some of the earliest books I remember ever reading as a child, like as a little girl, were film books. Cause you know, and back then, of course, it was like stuff about like old Hollywood. Because my mom, she still does, but she's always loved like old Hollywood and like Clark Gable's one of her favorite actors. And I'm very blessed because I was raised in a household where she really, you know, she always listened to music. There was always this talk of film. Of course, we were really poor. So it'd be like, you know, but the library would be like selling like overstock or books that weren't getting checked out as much. And so that's how we'd get like film books and
Yeah.
you know, of course later on like cable and video stores, some very much of that era. But I just there's something about the language of cinema um that just instinctively it's almost like you know when you find something that's like it feels like it matches a little part of your DNA, like it's like you sense like this is a part of me, this
Yeah.
is like my tribe. That's how reading about film and watching film and discovering all of these different cinematic worlds for me, and it also showed me a way um that the world was so much bigger than just this little sort of like you know, existence in a working class, you know, kind of town
Yeah.
that's very conservative. You know, like I got into silent film. My very first favorite actor and biggest crush was Bela Lugosi. I
No
think I was like four
way.
or five. I saw a picture of him, and that was all she wrote. And
That's awesome.
then I got a little like, yeah, then I think at like seven, I was gifted like a Good Times VHS
Okay.
copy of Return of the Vampire, which honestly holds up. That's a really great underrated Bela Lugosi movie. Um, but there's just it's always pulled to me. And as I got a little bit older, discovering cult cinema.
Yeah.
And then that was all she wrote. Because I was always instinctively interested in stuff that was a little different.
Okay.
And like horror, I was always a monster kid. Silent cinema has its own kind of like so many of the silent films have such a beautiful like visual language to them. I think people overlook like there's a lot of gifts in silent films. uh, but yeah, I never was super. I mean, there were mainstream films I loved. I'm not a total elitist, but what always interested me was like the things that were a little on the outer edges.
Yeah.
Um, because it was different, you know, and it tells, it's also like storytelling too, because I'm being a writer, like I write a lot of prose too, and I love great storytelling, but I also love it when you can do that with an image. Like film is the perfect multimedia.
I like that. I think you're right. I think I feel the same way. I think that's what's always kind of drawn me into movies is you can do the exposition thing, and sometimes you can make that work
Mhm.
and not rely on the image as much. Or sometimes you can tell a lot without any dialogue, and you can tell just as much a lot of times. And sometimes both. Like some films do both very well. Um, but there's a million different ways to sort of communicate a message and convey a feeling and an emotion, and that's what's always drawn me in as well. Which is we were geeking out on Scooter McRae before we joined. That's one of the reasons his movies are so interesting to me, is because he does honestly have quite a lot of dialogue in the movies.
Mm.
It's you wouldn't think they would be as good as they are by having so much dialogue in them, but I think he's able to do something visually in the background and keep it interesting while there's a lot of this dialogue going on and convey a lot.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, and he's such a great writer
Yeah.
too. Like that's the thing that's so hard with film too, because it's like it's so many. You have to have so many elements working together. Because like you could have a great screenplay, but if the director's bored and doesn't give a shit, if the cinematographer's not, if he's not into it or she's not into it, or they's not into it, it's not going to be good. If the actors are terrible, you know what I mean? It's like everything is almost like a chess game or something. You have to have like everything kind of aligned in this harmonious way for it to really be powerful. And you really have to have a director and an editor. I think editors are like the rhythm section. Like people always underrate bassists and drummers, even though the rhythm section is so important to
Sure.
so many types of music. But like if a great editor, in some ways the editor is just as much of the storyteller as the director and actors and writer.
I fully agree because it's I think if I've said before if I ever could go back to film school and pick like a job to do in film, it would probably be the editing room because I don't think it's the pressure. To me, the pressure of a director is hard of having to kind of coordinate everything live
Hmm.
and like have a vision in your head and fight with people to hold a vision and all that. Like that's not really me, but like the ability to sit back in a room with this like chaos and just try to make sense of it has always seemed really interesting to me.
Oh, for sure. And build that rhythm. I mean, I have a very much a musical brain too, obviously. But to me, it's like great editing is like it's like building a great song too. Because you have to find that rhythm. You have to find that fluidity of telling, you know.
There's a lot of good YouTube videos about what a producer can do for music and like how much impact they have on a song. So I think it's very similar in that way, right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Just how to build it. Okay, so you have this background in the arts, and then
Hmm.
have writing about movies for a long time, and then transitioned into becoming more and more of a go-to for people that need special features. Because I starting with kind of Anchor Bay, I think was a big pioneer in this. Oh, I mean Criterion. I mean to give them credit. Criterion and Anchor Bay were big pioneers in special features and supplements on a disc. But I feel like Blu-ray has kind of taken it up almost to like another level where, you know,
Oh,
yeah, you're getting
totally.
full
Yeah.
histories of these things. Um, and so you are now one of the main voices that a lot of companies go to for these, which is amazing. Do you remember that transition at all? Sort of like how that was to like when you first started getting those calls and kind of how that process was of getting used to writing an essay for a booklet or putting a video essay together or a commentary, all these different things.
Oh my God, completely. Are you kidding? Because like I loved it. I love as much you mentioned Anchor Bay because and even though I mean you're right, Criterion were doing supplements like in the back in the Laserdisc era. And I
Right.
think if you I think some of the other companies were Laserdisc were kind of that format for it. But Laserdisc never took off like
Mhm.
DVD and and Blu-ray and most of us didn't really have access to Laserdisc.
Right.
So no, because I remember getting, and in fact, to this day, it's one of my favorite commentaries ever. Anchor Bay's release of Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, which is also coincidentally one of my favorite Lucio Fulci movies. And that commentary track with David Warbeck and Catriona McCall is so great. It's so hilarious. I love David Warbeck. I love her too, but he is like, oh my God, I would have loved to have got to just sit down and just hear that man talk in person. What a gem. But no, of course, I mean, if you're a film person, those getting to hear commentary tracks and the occasional like behind the scenes or a little mini documentary was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, heaven. You're in absolute heaven. And I'm sure I mean like a lot of us, I would daydream. I've ever been like, God, that'd be awesome to be one of these people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah. Great.
and I still feel like that because I still kind of feel like that I'm like anytime I get to do anything like this, I'm like, whoa, like me? Like I feel like not to not trying to be like precious about or anything. It's just like I still very much feel like I'm like the person in the front, in the front row watching the show and just being excited about it. And then but yeah, no, and especially getting to do like the commentaries were really the big deal because that's, I mean, getting to do essays is cool too, and I'm not, writing has always been my main thing, but starting to get to the commentary tracks and like actually the first solo one I did, I will never forget because it was for Firestorm,
Yeah.
which originally was put out by Distripix, and now Melusine. See, I can tie this in beautifully to the partner label, but are now releasing that because they have partnered with Distripix. But no, Stephen Morowitz, who runs Distripix, and he's a sweet guy. I've known him for years. Uh, he knew about my work as a writer. Uh, and he also knew that I was a huge fan of Cecil Howard, the
Okay.
director. And in fact, I think like the original like ad when they were promoting I don't know if it's still up there now, but the original when they first put it on Blu-ray, like I think I was called like Cecil Howard, like felt like free fan freak or like super fan or something. Which I'm like, fuck it, I'll take it. I love Cecil Howard. He's brilliant. To this day, that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of doing because it was terrifying because it was like doing the joint one. Because like the first one I ever did was the joint one for Flesh Pot of 42nd Street with Kat Ellinger and Sam Deegan, and that was so much fun. And those two are so brilliant, and in just both of them are very much individuals and have these like they're like each like a little like kind of like a super heroine and I got to kind of I was like cool, I'm joining for the ride, because they already also had done stuff. I think that already both of them had already done commentaries and stuff. um but that was so much fun, and I love Andy Milligan. I love that film. I definitely would like to kind of do more on Milligan at some point, to be honest, because he's such a I think misunderstood filmmaker. But there's also really something glorious about these three like kind of very strong, kind of wild women with me and Kat and Sam talking about a filmmaker who notoriously kind of did not like women and had a lot of issues towards women.
Right, right, right.
But we also love him as an artist. And that's kind of the cool thing about this journey um with cinema is that I think for us who are into like weird films, a lot of us haven't had that problem so much. We could separate art from artists too. People sometimes get hung up on that. I'm like, I always say, don't date them. Don't marry them, for God's sake. Jesus, like, don't room with them. At this point, a lot of the ones we're talking about are dead. So you know what? If you're like, oh, they're canceled, honey, death canceled them. Okay. Their life got canceled. Okay, just enjoy the art. Enjoy the good things about them. It's kind of like having sometimes it's like having a relative that, if you don't talk about politics with, they'll tell you like some cool old story.
Right, right.
And
They're
you're
not that
like
bad.
that, yeah, and you're like, oh, that's so wonderful. But then they say some like joke, and you're like, oh God, here we go. But but I digress. But no, I mean, um, every little thing I've gotten to do on any of this release, and there are people that have done a lot more. I'm kind of like the trying to think like a musical analogy. I'm not Pete Best, not Pete Best. I don't know. Um, no, I always feel honored because there are so many talented people uh that do a lot of the supplements that so anytime I get invited to do an essay or a commentary like that, it's always an honor. I always feel like, holy shit, me? Okay.
Well,
Cool.
speaking of holy shit moments, you've had three non-Vinegar Syndrome releases that I want to mention and just kind
Mhm.
of ask you about because I think they're movies where your voice really shines well. So you've done two for Umbrella, right? In Intruder and then Caligula, and then one for Second Sight called, well, not called The Hitcher, like people don't know The Hitcher, but and then you were able to do The Hitcher for Second Sight. Can you talk a little bit about working on those and end with Caligula? Because I have like a million questions on that. But can you talk
Ab-
a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with the Hitcher.
Okay.
And then we'll get to Umbrella.
Okay.
Because there's also an upcoming one.
Okay.
I should mention too. No, the Hitcher, that one had been, I actually wrote that essay, I think like 2 years ago,
Okay.
like a year or two ago. And the whole thing of like seeing how hard they were working on trying to get everything buttoned up properly. And that's the thing, some of these companies, I don't know if people realize how hard they work because sometimes you see people getting kind of a little touchy. And I think a lot of them are coming from a good place because they're excited. I mean, and The Hitcher was a film that's been out of print for years, and
Sure.
it's a masterpiece. This is one
Right.
of the best horror movies from the 80s, if not just period. It's
Yeah.
a fantastic film. Rucker Hauer is, I mean, and I'm probably biased, he is one of my favorite actors, but oh my God, that performance, holy smokes. But when that finally got announced, it's like, oh my God, things are finally lining up because that was so exciting to see. Not even just because like, oh, my essay. I'm just like, just as a lover of that film, finally this beautiful movie is going to get out. And this, I mean, that set's unreal. They have the script in it.
I know.
It's like it's a box set. It's like literally like just this like gorgeous box set. They did such a great job. And getting to be with so many other writers and people that are just brilliant too.
Did
And
you?
that'll Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry to interrupt. I was just gonna say I had the benefit of there's this company called Fractured Visions. It's only put out like three or four releases, and
Mhm.
I I emailed the guy that was led Fractured Visions, this guy named Phil Escott, and he happens to be just by coincidence and happy luck, he happens to be the guy that does all the special feature stuff for Second Sight. So
Oh, right on.
midway through this interview, I was like, wait, oh shit. I didn't realize I was talking to like the guy that's making all these beautiful sets and all this stuff. And so, anyways, I don't know if you worked with him or not. I think it's bigger than just two people. But yeah.
It is. I just checked my email, and he is the one that made sure to send me the comp copy.
Oh, cool.
So I did kind of work with him, but I don't think it's been a few years. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, the main person is a guy named Chris, who's notoriously quiet and doesn't really like do interviews and stuff because everybody's been trying. Anybody you talk to, they've been trying to get Chris on their show. But I'm sure the company's bigger. Anyways, I don't mean to get into the inner workings of Second Sight. It was just a fun little connection that I was.
Right. It's such a small world. It
No, totally.
really.
No, totally. But I interrupted you, though. You were saying about the release itself. So you were doing the essay for it.
Yeah, I did an essay for that, and it's part of a nice little booklet. And then like going into the stuff with Umbrella, which I'll end with Caligula. I'll start with Intruder. And which it's so funny because when I was asked, like, oh, would you like to contribute an essay on Intruder? And I made sure because I got paranoid. I'm like, wait, are we talking about like the one like with the Raimis in it? Like the grocery store slasher film?
Mhm.
And I was told indeed, and I was like, fuck yes, I would love to do an essay. Are you kidding? Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
And I love that movie so much. Like it's such a cool movie. And that set is beautiful. It comes with like a replica of Gore Zone.
I know.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's amazing. And that was Jack Sargent. I have Jack Sargent to thank hugely for that one. So I don't know, Jack, if you ever hear this, thank you. He's just a great man, very easy. And that's the thing. I think it's important. Any work, especially that you're doing out of love, like make sure you know it's good to work with good people. And that's the thing I've really enjoyed is, you know, pretty much like getting to work with such a variety of people with some of these. I mean, it hasn't been a huge variety because I've, you know, it's, you know, uh, because I've worked mainly with like a lot of the same ones for the most part. But everybody's like very like, you know, just loves everybody loves what they're doing.
yeah.
And that's awesome. And it's actually thanks to Jack, because there's an upcoming umbrella release for House of the Devil,
Okay.
and I have a video essay. And what's cool on that is that's my first video essay that I have edited. Now, granted, I don't know if they've added B-roll to it, so I might not be the only editor, but as far as all of the stuff with me, I edited that. I
Oh,
wrote it and edited, and that was cool because that was also me learning or relearning Final Cut Pro after several years because I do video editing as part of my day job, but at the day job I do Adobe Premiere.
okay.
I'll try not to get too geeky here, but
Yeah.
I had trained on Final Cut Pro back in the like mid to late 2000s, and but Final Cut Pro from like that era
Right, right,
versus
right.
Final Cut Pro now is very different. So
Sure.
I was very, very proud of being able to like, okay, like I can do this. And of course, I mean, House the Devil speaks for itself. So that was an honor to get kind of to be asked to do that film. Um, and of course, I guess do you want me to lead to Caligula? Am I talking over you? I know I'm a little bit of a chatty Cathy.
Be a chatty Heather. Let's do it. I mean, yeah, I want to hear about Caligula because I remember um, I was in college when I first saw it, like 2002, 2003, and it was not the longer cut. It was just like the standard, with hardcore edits, inserts.
Right.
And I didn't get it at first. I was like, what the fuck is this movie? Um, but then as things go, I saw it a few more times over the next 20 years. And I think, you know what was a big moment for me, actually? I saw Fellini's Casanova and Fellini's Satyricon and really liked those. And then
Yeah.
saw Caligula again afterwards. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like it just kind of clicked for me. Like they're so similar and visually that it clicked for me. So when this set was announced, I was so pumped. And then I saw your name. It's just like it's basically like the Heather Drain release. Like congratulations, first of all.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm that one still floors me. And also by the way, I love you invoking like Satyricon and Casanova with that because that would be a cool, I think, like double or triple feature.
Right?
Like particularly with the Guccione cut, maybe a little more than the Ultimate cut, because the Ultimate cut's a little different.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, in this one, I have to give a shout out to Alexander Helen Nichols, who's a fucking goddess in general, but she basically, she's the one that mentioned me to
Okay.
Umbrella and suggested. And then James, which I'm probably gonna mispronounce James' last name because I've never heard anybody say it out loud. And Keo, James Co. James, God, I'm sorry. I know I'm butchering. I'm so sorry, sir. And I worked with him on that, and he pretty much gave me free reign, like which was good because God, Caligula is such a dicey, it's weird to think like a film that's 40 plus years old at this point still has so much controversy and so much like weird energy to it. Like there's still like all kinds of like just kind of, I won't go into it, but like dramatics attached to it behind the scenes, including with the ultimate cut. But it was such a cool, I still can't believe I got to do that, to be honest. That was such a cool journey to go. As somebody who's been fascinated with the film for years and all of its forms, and also being a Tinto Brass fan
Sure.
as well, because I love Tinto.
You introduced Tinto as an art house filmmaker.
Hmm.
I think that was very refreshing to hear because I don't know what everybody thinks about him, but I think, it's easy to dismiss him as like a softcore kind of, it's a Skinamax
Like,
type director.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but there's a lot of artistry in his work. Uh,
Oh, I mean, including the more like sort of like erotic
mhm.
sort of 80s and 90s era. No, Tinto is such a like he's to me he's a great artistic anarchist. He's a sexual anarchist as well. And I adore even like the fluffiest, like non-deep Tinto film still will have something about it.
Sure.
Like like Permafrost, is it Permafrost Tinto Brass, which is just like a little anthology film, and some of it's just kind of cute little like saucy stories. But then it has this wraparound segment with him as himself, and there's a dream sequence where a girl unbuttons his pants and a literal elephant trunk comes out of it. Like what? But I love that. It's surrealist. He's a surrealist and he's very like anti-establishment, which made him so perfect to do Caligula. It's still um I do like the ultimate cut a lot, and the hard work that Aaron Shops, the editor, you want to talk about editing. You imagine going through all that raw, like several hours upon hours of raw footage, putting that together, and him and Thomas McGovern, their hard work shines, and it's great to have that. But the reason I love the umbrella set, even if I wasn't on it, is that little evil laugh there. But seriously, it's because it has all the other cuts too.
Is
So
that right?
the umbrella are giving people to kind of make a chance to make up their own minds, which I think is so cool. Because the Guccione stuff, I mean, Guccione never should have fucked with anything. He never should have usurped anything from Tito to begin with. That can never be said enough. But the Guccione stuff and him being a part of it is such an inherent part of that film's
Right.
legend, to
Right.
be honest. And some of the, I mean, I think some of the pets are good. Like, I mean, Lori Wagner and Anika Di Lorenzo, you still see them quite a bit, a little in Lori more so, and the ultimate cut. And she's great. Like, I think she's not given a lot to do. I mean, she's pretty, she's there to be pretty, but she has kind of a little like spiciness about her that I like.
There's that theory called I think it's called death of the artist, is that right? Or once you
Mhm.
release something to the public, it's no longer yours. It's however the public perceives it is what it
Oh, right, right. I've heard, yeah,
and
yeah.
to me Caligula is like the best example of that because if whatever the intent was back in 1976 with that ultimate cut, that's it's just not how people know Caligula, right?
Mhm.
99% of the world or whatever knows it from the 1980 cut. And it's just the releasing the ultimate cut now is fascinating and important from a preservation standpoint and from a like rewriting history
Mhm.
to kind of say like, well, this is what the original intent was, right? There's a reason that Helen Mirren doesn't talk about it and all these things, right? But like it's interesting there Caligula is like a thing to so many people now for so long. It's
Yeah.
one thing. So it's really hard to separate that. Even if the ultimate cut is better or worse, even seeing I guess the original cut you're calling the Guccione cut. Is that right? Did I,
Well, yeah, no, yeah, because
in 1989?
basically, that was the first finished cut. Like
Yeah.
there was never a completed Tinto cut because Guccione like basically mucked
Right.
things up and intervened. But but it's part of the lore. And I mean, what's interesting is like the hardcore stuff in it. If you can, it's unneeded. I mean, the film actually, it's so funny when the ultimate cut was announced, somebody on Twitter, because I had shared something about the Umbrella release, and I think a guy was like, "Oh, well, there's not going to be any sex in this one," and I'm like, "Dude, it's still about Caligula, okay? Like, you still have him like fisting a guy at his wedding. I mean, I don't." This isn't the Kids Bop's version, okay, of Caligula. Thomas and Aaron didn't go in and cut out if they
Right.
cut out all the nudity, I mean, the film would be probably like what, 15 minutes long, maybe?
Yeah,
Maybe?
maybe.
Even then, probably not. Like, I mean, Deep Throat censored would be probably about as long. I love Deep Throat too, but you know what I mean? Like it's so I don't know. I love the fact that and getting to explore. I mean, honestly, the amount of notes I did on that commentary, I'm like, God, I could, you could write books, like probably more than one book on just like, because you go into the history of Caligula and then you go into the history of what was, the multiple scripts that were originally, and just I
Yeah.
don't know, it's like a Matryoshka doll after a while. So it
Right.
was, and that set, I mean, I knew it was going to be, when I got my contributor copy, I was like, I was floored. I'd seen pictures online, but it's like, holy smokes,
It's
it's
wild.
gorgeous. Yeah, yeah, I would say, of the two more recent things, that and the getting to do the commentary tracks. I honestly, my number one probably supplement thing, if you asked me to pick one, like a favorite, it
Mhm.
would be the Flesh trilogy.
The
Yeah,
Lord of
which,
the Finland?
yeah, yeah, because that was because I did all three
Yeah.
commentaries. So, and I did those all, like I did two, because we were on a tight deadline. I recorded, here's some inside baseball, I guess. I recorded the first two in one day,
No
and
way.
I did the third one the next day.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
yeah.
This is
I don't recommend doing things that way if you don't have to, by the way. But it was like, but deadlines get tight and you got to step up to the plate.
wow.
And I was prepared. I mean, I literally have a framed picture of Michael Finley on my desk. Like, this is a huge labor of love. Lisa Petrucci, God bless her. God bless Stephen Morowitz. God bless Elijah Drenner, because it was those three that basically, you know, uh, really gave me the support.
Oh, cool.
They vetted for me, and they believe, because that was a huge undertaking. Like, there are definitely bigger names they could have put on that release than mine, that would probably get maybe more eyes or more clicks, that probably have more pedigree to it. And that's fine. I always say, like, never don't resent somebody else for getting a job you want, just as long as they're kicking ass. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, is the work.
Well,
Um, you
clearly,
know,
yes, because now I think you're at that upper echelon now because of just even the titles we're mentioning, right?
oh, well, thank you. I don't, that is not my place to say, but I appreciate that. But I'm always a firm believer in the only person you should ever compete with is yourself, you
Yeah.
know. But
It's
that
that
was,
That Arkansas fight coming out in you, right? That Southern fight.
oh my God. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. I know I feel the same way on a lot of things. But speaking of getting onto a lot of like amazing releases, one of the ones I had heard about for years but never seen was Shanks.
Malcolm Shanks hears no evil. He speaks no evil. Because he's too busy making dead people walk. The great artist Marcel Marceau plays Malcolm Shanks. and many other forms of life rated PG.
Was it October, right? It was the October release
Mhm.
for them.
I believe so, yeah.
This is another one of these movies, Heather. I was watching this and I was just like, I'm in love with this.
It's so beautiful, isn't it? Like it's such a great kind of dark fairy tale, but it has such a sweet heart to it, you know? Like it's such a kind of pure sweetness about it with all this sadness
Yeah.
surrounded it.
So
It's
much.
that was I know. It's a beautiful bummer. But it really I was honored like when Justin but yeah, huge props to Justin Liberty. I because that was like Justin was had reached out to me and he was like, "Would you like to do Shanks?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Again, another way, like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, I probably was a little more professional responding to him than that, just a little bit, but no, that was getting to kind of like root, you know, like there's certain films you get to kind of root around in
Yeah.
as a writer and just process and be like, how can you, you know, you want to do your best to honor sort of that film's language and spirit. um, and I mean, God, William Castle. I think William Castle is really, it's going to sound weird to say he's underrated because he's a huge name, but I think people always just focus on like, oh, he did all these crazy gimmicks. They don't talk at least enough for my blood about his talent and his love. This man
Yes.
really loved storytelling and he loved art. And I
Yeah.
think that shows in so many of his films. I mean, even some of the lesser ones, like I mean, 12 Frightened Girls isn't like a masterpiece, but it's got some great kind of visual language to it.
Well, it's interesting because there's a certain, I don't even know what you would call this, like a subgenre or a subgenre of movies about aging clowns. And I think I've
Mhm.
always been really drawn to this because, like, Jacques Tati did it in, there's a story he did called The Illusionists, which is, it's an animated movie made by the guy that did Triplets to Belleville.
Oh, wow.
He had a follow-up called The Illusionist, which was based on a Jacques Tati script. And it's all about this artist who no longer has an audience, and he's like very sad. And he's kind of like what happens in a world where there's no clowns or there's no mimes. And then Fellini touched on this a couple times in his work. He had literally made a pseudo documentary called Clowns. And then Shanks is up there. Like Shanks is right there because it's like this, I think in a way it's there's a layer to it of knowing who Marcel Marceau was to the world. Seeing him play that role is fascinating because you're just like, there's he has this empathy and this sadness that he conveys so well from being a mime all those years, um, that I don't think many people could pull that off. So in my mind, it's like a similar type of movie about this like aging sort of oh, this like this art that's been there throughout history that's sort of aging out. Like there's no new mimes coming up really, Um, it's more of a fringe thing now as opposed to like a very popular culture. But
Right.
that extra layer of it to me of watching this, I mean, he was sell out stadiums back in the day, right? And now nobody even knows the
Mhm.
name Marcel Marceau. So there was that extra layer there for me that was just like kind of sad even watching him do that role.
Oh yeah. But see, but the cool thing is releases like that and us talking about is like that's gonna get people. I always think that anything you do in life is like a seed.
Okay.
You know, like, and especially with anything creative, like if you write something, if you like what you're doing with this show, with your podcast, you're planting seeds. And
Hmm.
think about it, it just takes that one person listening to be like, I don't know who this person is, I don't know who this director is,
Hmm.
but I'm intrigued and check it out. And like you are spreading that knowledge. And then it's like, then things aren't forgotten anymore. And I mean, that's how we all learn. I mean, I mean, nobody's born into this world knowing anything, you know? It's that curiosity and it's that openness, which so yeah, that's so no, I'm so glad that like Shanks connected with you because it's a beautiful film and it's so cool like that it's on like especially that sub label because that one they've been doing so much. I mean, all of these labels are doing great work, all these sub labels. But the cool thing with that one is they're really kind of taking, you know, either independent films or films that were part of the Hollywood system,
Right.
you know, or part of the studio system,
Right.
but have been very neglected and kind of forgotten a little bit, or you know, if not forgotten, kind of, you know, a little dusty. They gathered some dust on the shelves, and so
Sure.
you know, and in true form and fashion, what we're talking about, dusting them off, beautifying them. Not even beautifying them, but getting them restored to their original beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's restoration work, and then there's that Japanese art where you have broken pottery and you can put gold to kind of like fill in the gaps to make it
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
I think it's called kintsugi, but that's
Mhm.
more of like what New York Ninja was, right? Of taking this thing that was completely shattered and like reconstructing it into something new and different. But a lot of what we're talking about is more just putting a good polish on it. And then the important part is the context around it, which is why your role is so important and why I'm so glad you're getting more popular because I don't know, you mentioned Sam Deegan, I think she's probably another one. But the amount of research you do for these releases is amazing because I was mentioning this about Caligula, I forgot to mention it, but Caligula and Shanks, I'm learning something every time I'm reading or listening to you, and I really appreciate that because it adds another layer the next time I see the movie, right?
Oh, cool. Think that's no, that's so cool to hear. That's always the goal, you know. Is especially because like I to me that's my part of the fun with doing like nonfiction is the little I love going these little like rabbit holes where and in fact I probably would get more done, but I sometimes distract myself with like side rabbit holes. Like I literally posted something this evening about because I've started doing video essays for my YouTube and I'm working on one right now, and something adjacent to the one I'm working on right now had me all of a sudden looking up like you know Tori Amos, like her first album Why Can't Tori Read, which is not really considered canon for Tori fans, I think, because it was kind of like her like rock album that she did when she was like, you know, like an 80s baby kind of thing.
Right.
But like I just found out tonight that like this insane amount of like name power were on that album. Like in behind the scenes, like half a cheap trick are doing backing vocals.
That's
Mary,
amazing.
yeah, Mary Clayton, who does that amazing vocal in the Rolling Stones Give Me Shelter, like
Yeah.
Matt Sorum's on drum, like it's all kinds of people. I'm like, holy shit. Like, and I love Tori. I've been listening to Tori, but I never really got into Why Can't Tori Read. Because you know, that wasn't like canon Tori. It's kind of like how I don't really like, you know, I don't really when I talk about Hortorowski, I don't mention like Tusk or the Rainbow Thief because I don't personally really consider it like pure Hodo. That's just maybe me, but whatever. Like I gotta be true to I gotta be true to my heart and my gut on this.
Wait, quick 5 second tangent. There's a whole conversation separately I want to have aside about Jodorowsky because he's just such an amazing director. But uh,
Oh,
I'll just quickly say the commentary for Santa Sangre, if you haven't heard it, I was crying during it because
oh man.
as he was watching the movie, doing the commentary, it was the only time he had seen the movie after his son died. And
Oh,
he's such an open heart. And
yeah, he's so beautiful.
he's just
Like,
talking about it. He's just saying like, this scene is really difficult for me. And he like takes a pause and you're just like living this moment with him. It's like, fuck, oh my God, it's so beautiful.
oh, he is so in like I don't I'll make this quick. I don't want to get too far off the weeds,
Uh,
far into the weeds, I should say.
yeah.
But when I was writing for Dangerous Minds, I had the chance to do a phone interview with Hortorowski
Oh.
because Dance of Reality was coming
Uh-huh,
out,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
and that was I don't think I have ever been more terrified in a non-medical situation in my life. I was literally, I felt like I was having anxiety. I was having like 20 anxiety attacks. And on top of that, because it took forever to connect, there was a delay. And then when we did, the connection was shit. It was awful. But he was so patient with me. He stayed on the phone with me for 30 minutes with a bad connection. And half the time he was speaking in French. And my French yeah, let's just say it's not very good. It is I can oh God, see I took German and I whatever. I can speak a tiny bit of French, but not enough to talk with anybody.
Yeah.
And but he was still like so patient and he asked questions. He was like asking me like, do you have any children? You know, he was like asking like
Uh,
these like questions just wanting to know about. Um and I mean, it ended up not being very usable because of the difficulties, like, of the recording, but he was so patient and so sweet, and he literally ended it by saying abrazos.
Wow.
And I was friends with a writer at the time named David Arate, who's a really great writer, and very cool guy. But he listened to the raw because he was able to translate some of the, because it was like French and Spanish. A lot of it
Hmm.
was Spanish, but there was French too. And and he's like, Heather, he said abrazos, like that's like a term of endearment. Like, and I was like, oh my God. I was like crying. I mean, because I Hodorowski is one of the most impactful artists for me, like as a just as a person. Like I find his stuff so deeply like personal
Yeah.
and spiritual.
Yeah.
And you're talking about that openness about him, I think is so beautiful, because you're right. And I love the fact that he, in interviews, he'll say, I'm not a shaman. I'm
Hmm.
not this wise man. And to me, that's an artist you can trust. Anybody that presents themselves as, oh, I'm this big deal, or I'm this wise person, or I'm this or that. Anybody, and this is just for life, anybody that presents themselves as any sort of big wheel to you, watch your ass. Because
It's
it's
true.
because they're full of shit.
It's
It's
true.
a Yeah. So especially with anybody in like particularly anybody in power, and that's not a political statement necessarily, just anybody, any power position, including in the arts. So it's like when you see that great interview with Nicholas, that's between Nicholas Ruffin and William Friedkin, and Ruffin's like touting his own horn, and Friedkin, this great auteur, one of the best American auteurs ever, is looking at the camera. Oh my God. I had a screenshot of Friedkin's face on my phone forever. That was my wallpaper. Because William Friedkin is the man. I digress. But anyways, no, I need to I have that Blue Osana Sangre. I need to listen to that commentary and make sure I have some tissues. Good night, because I'll be shattered.
It's worth it. Yeah. It's worth
Yeah.
it. Something less sad. And another release that you have that actually is announced today, speaking of Partner Month, and speaking of Scooter that we were mentioning earlier, is a Saturn's Core release. So you also
Yes.
work with them, which is Russ or Ross? Ross?
It's Ross.
Ross.
Yes.
Uh, Super nice guy. Really
Oh,
know what he
the
does.
man. Love him. He is so easy to work with, and just truly, the good Lord, he knows his shit. He knows the stuff. That
Even
man, the brain on him.
and his discs are, I think of all the partner labels in general, his discs are usually the most stacked. And I think he said there's a technical reason for that because they're just the digital file of these films is not as robust when they're shot on video. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I think he just really cares about this stuff a lot as well.
Oh no, his passion, when I was working with them on doing, because I did an essay for the films of Richard Baylor. Um, and that was so much fun to do, because Richard, and it's funny because before we start recording, I'd mentioned to you about Scooter,
Yeah.
and how I first learned about Scooter as a teenager when I was reading like Film Threat Video magazine.
Yeah, right.
Which is weird because like there was a chain in this area called Hastings at that time period,
Yeah.
that was kind of like a cool alternative. Like
Mhm.
you could find like all kinds of cool stuff there. And the one in Fayetteville had they didn't have Film Threat magazine, but they had Film Threat Video.
Okay.
And so I picked those up just on a lark. And that's how I learned about Hurg Butgereit, who's now one of my favorite directors and has been for years. I love him. You learn about people like all the Sim of Transgression people, like Lydia Lunch, Richard Kern, Nick Zed. But I remember seeing ads and reviews for Baylor stuff.
Okay.
But again, kind of like with Scooter, I didn't get to see a lot of the stuff years later. Because I mean, my parents were open-minded and are open-minded, but there's no way hell anybody in the right mind is gonna be like, let their like teenage, especially teenage girl back then, be like, so you want to order this movie called Necromantic about a necrophile, and yeah, no. Like they were really going to be so open. But but no, but then I finally, thanks to working on that release about Richard, like got to watch all of Richard's stuff and do this essay, and I did a commentary track um as well. And man, what a joy. But it's so cool because, like, yeah, Ross would send me like scans of stuff, like old reviews, and he had that stuff on file. Um and then, the cool thing about the internet is now, like, I get to, like, I've heard from Richard Baylor, like the director has surfaced with all this, and he's a sweetheart and such a cool guy. And that's a release I really can't recommend enough to people. And I would say this if I didn't know anybody involved. If you love underground cinema, and particularly, I think Richard's stuff's better than some of the cinema, the bigger dogs in the cinema of transgression. Richard's he's more than that. I don't really consider him part of that movement, to be honest, because he was in Britain, and he's still in Britain. He's
Right.
American, but he was making stuff in Britain.
Okay.
But like his stuff, and that's the thing, Saturn's Core really, like, they're releasing some truly like cool underground films.
Yeah.
And and like with this one that got announced today with Dogs in Quicksand, which I'm so excited about. And this was when I went into blind, because I'm, to be honest, like, Russ was like, he sent me like a screener. He's like, watch this and tell me if you want to do an essay. And I'm like, okay. And I watched it and I'm like, yes. I loved it. And it's a quirky comedy.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, I love it that he's taking chances. It'd be easy for him just to cater. And I love all the like gore stuff. And in fact, there'll be a release coming up that I won't name yet because it hasn't been announced formally, but there is one on the horizon that's fun and very, like, got all kinds of cool practical effects. That's all I'm gonna say on it.
Yep.
And I live for that shit too. I'm a horror kid
Yeah,
completely. But man cannot survive on bread alone. You need a variety in your diet. And Dogs in Quicksand's so fun, and that's Mike Tripietti. Yeah, and great cast, fun writing. Mike has this great theatrical background. And so, like, he actually did like this play before, and there's going to be I think the play is on this release. You get to see video footage of this play that's about women in prison. Like, so obviously Mike is one of us.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and I love it because this is such a fun movie. It's so good. And I love the fact that more people are kind of more and more opening their minds to shot on video stuff. Because I mean, I won't lie, when especially when I was a teenager, when I thought about me being like, I want to be a filmmaker, I I probably was, wouldn't have been ballsy enough to just grab a camcorder and do it,
Yeah.
because I kind of bought the bullshit of, oh no, to make a film, you got to do this and this and this. And that's a lie. To make a film, make the fucking movie, write the script, grab a camera, get it done. It's punk rock. All of these filmmakers are doing the punk rock ethos, and it's beautiful.
So if we can pause on that for 1 second and talk about another label. As far as I know, you don't have any work with them, but I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But there's another partner label called VHS Hitfest, and I think
Oh, they are so cool. I have one of the releases. Yeah, I haven't done anything for them, but no, I do. Is it Blood Hunger?
um,
It's the vampire indie film from, like, I think Georgia. I think it was shot in Georgia or North Carolina. I was going to do an article on it when I saw the film on YouTube
yes.
a few years ago, because a guy I was friends with on Instagram had shared it, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
And
Blood Hunter. Yeah, yeah.
yes, Blood Hunter. Yeah, no, they're doing some cool stuff too. I want to get more of their releases.
But I think they're another one similar to Saturn's Core, where they're like when I first saw Corn Shucker. So the first release is called Corn Shucker,
Hmm.
and like it could if you told me it was a David Lynch film, like student film or experimental film that he made just on a camcorder, I would totally believe it. It's quirky. It's got that same spirit of what David Lynch has in his movies, where it's dark without being scary. Like it's kind of he has like a whimsy almost to everything he does, even when he gets dark. Um,
Mm.
I mean, except for the stuff he makes that is horrific, which he can do as well. But like a lot of the times in his scenes, there's almost like this weird kind of light like levity or whimsy to the his
Hmm.
filmmaking. And Cornshucker, I think, has a lot of that too. And it's a little bit surreal. It's amazing. And you're like, okay, this is miles away from what I expected an SOV to be. Um,
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I gotta get that. Yeah, I need to pick up more. They're a label I always like I'm always keeping an extra eye on, especially because they did Blood Hunter. Have you seen Blood Hunter?
no, I haven't yet. I haven't yet, but
Oh
that,
my God.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got some cool, like I'm a big fan of vampire cinema and vampire like mythology and fiction and because I'm like 80% goth. Of course I love vampires, but no, but it does like it's so southern and not just because it's made in the South, because I've always said you can tell the difference between horror films that, yeah, maybe they're set in the South, but the people making it aren't Southern. They don't understand actual, like, real culture, where it's just a bunch of stereotypes, versus the people that work in the genuine weirdness of this region.
Yeah.
Like Toby Hooper. You could tell, like and especially Texas weirdo. Like Texas Southern is like a different type of Southern than
Yeah, it's true.
the rest, and it's beautiful. Like he's so great. SF Brownrigg is another one, who nailed kind of the weird Southern Gothicness in his
Yeah.
stuff, like with especially Keep My Grave Open. That's the one I think gets talked about the least. Like Don't Look in the Basement. I know it's like the big one, and it's great. Scum of the Earth is fucking fantastic. Oh my God, it's so good. But no, Blood Hunter does some really cool things with that mythology. And there's this scene, I've seen people make fun of this movie for this scene. I think it's fucking cool. The vampire literally vomits up blood on the wall and it reveals a message. Like he's
Uh,
helter-skeltering the
nice,
wall with his own blood vomit.
nice.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's like complaining you got too much cheese on your pizza. Are you kidding me? This is a gift. This is part of the reason why we watch, like, independent films and cult films, is to see
Exactly.
something that bends your brain. You're like, Hollywood ain't gonna do that.
I I have to think of a new name for it, but I call it the bat pussy effect because
Oh
yeah, your
my
reaction
God.
says it all.
I
Uh,
have, oh my God, continue, but oh
No,
yeah.
it's an Agcor release. Speaking of partner labels, if you haven't
Mm.
seen it, but I remember just sitting there being like, "How was this made?" But I'm so glad it was.
Oh no, I I have this is something I should not be proud of, but I have no shame. I have three copies of Bat Pussy because I have the original Something Weird double feature, which was Bat Pussy with Baby Bubbles.
Okay.
Which God, that Baby Bubbles is terrible because that's just like a general, just really shitty, low budget
Yeah.
adult film, where people are actually able to get things inserted. Unlike Bat Pussy. Bat Pussy is not porn
No, it's
because it
anti-erotic.
it tries to be porn. The poor man valiantly tries to get an erection. It ain't happening. So
Rating him the whole first 30
oh
minutes.
my, I there used to be a site years and years ago called Brains on Film, and Professor Tread was one of the writers. Larry Treadwell, I think is his actual name. He had the best descriptor of that movie ever. And
Yeah.
he called it John Waters, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I I wish I would have written that line, but I always believe in giving credit where credit's due. That's Trad. That's not my line, but it's a great line. And it nails it, right? Because the dialogue where it's like, you wouldn't it's so terrible, but you wouldn't know how to eat pussy if it was your dead grandmother. And yet we're surprised anybody surprised this man couldn't get a boner? Are you kidding? Like, no, of course he couldn't. And then like and he's like, darling, I love you. Darling, I love you. You don't love me, motherfucker. I'm probably related to these people, by the way. This is why I don't believe in doing family trees. You,
Oh,
you
you're
don't know
safe.
what
You're
you'll
safe.
find.
It's a Texas production. You're safe.
Well, I mean, but I might have relatives in
Yeah,
Texas.
okay, fine. You never
The
know.
South, there's a lot of transplants in the South. But But no, I mean no, but I got the first Agfa Blu-ray. But then I had to get the second one because that one had different supplements, and including my friend, a friend of mine who's done all this great, him and his partner, um, have done all this amazing research on texploitation. Like
Okay.
the
Yeah.
main guy is Dennis Campa,
Yeah.
and the fact I knew I was gonna get along with Dennis when I was like, "You're researching Bat Pussy? My name is Heather."
Can we be friends?
Can we be friends? That is so amazing. Because especially because my husband and I used to joke that if you ever did a Where Are They Now on Bat Pussy, you would just when it says now, it would just be the shot of an underpass in Dallas. That's terrible. It's terrible, but funny. No, I love Bat Pussy. It is like it's I probably the reason we probably don't even have people come over anymore is because like I have forced people in the past to watch it because I obviously have a lot of issues, and
What a
but
great
I
way to
think
like to get your
it's
real friends though.
it's tremendous. I mean, the dialogue, the fact that like you hear crew members burping. I think it's like, I mean, and not just like a little like, like, oh, tee hee. I mean, we're talking like, like guttural, like there was natural ice on that set. Like somebody had a 6 pack, let's be real, 20 pack, multiple 12 packs of Natty
Okay.
Ice or PBR,
Uh,
Schlitz,
right.
probably Schlitz.
Oh, yeah. If
Probably Schlitz. We're talking, yeah. Um, it's a fascinating film. God bless. Can you imagine the poor guys that went to that dirty movie theater back then?
it's
Just hoping to have a little hand party before they have to go back to work or whatever.
trying to figure out how
And
to get an erection watching that.
you can't. You can't. I would almost be afraid to meet the person that could get aroused to that. I would be I'd be fascinated. I would
Oh,
be like, I don't know where you are on the Kinsey scale of what, but I am riveted. Yeah, no, bad. God bless AGFA. They are, yeah, that and Lisa Petrucci, like something weird. I mean, something weird. It's like one of the mothers
I know.
of all this great preservation. So
It's true. If there's ever a fourth release of it, I can do the commentary for it.
yes. Oh God, can you imagine? It's like if any movie, like we got the 4K,
But
the 4K about pussy.
um, but staying on Agfa for a second, they have a really good release in December. So they have uh, quite a few movies they're putting out. So they're calling it a triple frightmare. Have you seen anything about this release yet? Have you had a chance to see there? It's Love Goddesses of Blood Island, Follow That Skirt, and then The Undertaker and His Pals all coming
Oh
out.
my God. I've seen, I know there were like some lost elements that were found recently that go for this release. I saw Lisa posting about it. And I mean, I'm sorry, if Lisa Petrucci is somebody, if she's on something, if she's working on it, I want to get it because Lisa's the lady. She is awesome. And also like two of those films are films I haven't seen that I've heard of Follow That Skirt. I've never seen it. That title's amazing. Anything called Love Goddesses of Blood Island. Just
And
tattoo that inside my heart. Of course I want to see that. Undertaker and His Pals is classic. It's got one of my most favorite sort of final sequences in any movie. That's a musical sequence. I won't spoil it, but it's
no,
fantastic.
gotta see it.
There's some great gags. I mean, it's a great like horror comedy. And
Mhm.
I don't know how many of those we got in the 60s. And
No,
we got a few, but I mean, I feel like that one and
I mean,
I
it's
don't know
not.
if House on Bear Mountain counts, but that one has
Yeah.
Frankenstein spiking the punch and there's a bunch of boobs. So
At least, I mean, all the horror comedy in the 60s was cartoons for the most part, right? But H.G. Lewis has
true.
some comedy in his stuff, I guess. I mean, he tries
Oh
to,
God. I love Herschel to me is like a whole other
yeah.
category.
Uh,
I love Herschel Gordon Lewis so much.
but the interesting thing, this release has a commentary with Patton Oswalt, which is interesting because I don't know if you're listening, Patton, no offense. I haven't like loved the stuff that he's made, but the guy I love. Like awesome. He's in like you mentioned earlier he's one of us. Like Patton Oswalt
Mm.
loves movies.
Oh, yeah, and honestly, I'm always intrigued when people that are kind of from, I shouldn't say the outside world. It makes me like,
On the
like we're
surface,
start
right? Because we're underground.
right.
He's on the surface.
But I'm always kind of intrigued because it's kind of like finding out, being like, oh wow, like it's like finding out that Bill Hader liked Sallow. It's like, whoa, okay, I knew you were funny. I didn't know you had such a good taste. So I'm intrigued. Now I've and what I've seen, I've always liked him in a comedic aspect. I mean, he's great on Roast. I loved his supporting character on Reno 911. Um the Ren
Good
Fair.
call out. Good call out. Yeah.
Yeah, the Ren. So no, I'm definitely curious. Another one like that is oh God, why am I blanking? Oh God. Dana. Why am I not remembering his name? He
Oh,
was
other.
also like good friends with Vampira, like Mila Nurmi. Dana Gould. Dana
Oh,
Gould. Like
oh,
he's another one of those. Like I've discovered more recently is like has a cool kind of like underground sort of tie to it.
there's something good about comedians. Maybe comedians get it.
They're dark. A lot of them are very dark, twisted souls.
Exactly.
Which we are too. So it's like cool.
Perfect. Um, there's a it's interesting that after Altered Innocence left, there was this gap at OCN for labels that kind of focused on LGBTQ plus, and that gap is now filled. Um, and there's a new label called Cinephobia that's made it their mandate to promote these filmmakers,
Oh, right on.
which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first release has a essay or video essay or commentary. I'll check right now. Oh, a commentary from Unsung Horrors. So both Lance and Erica from Unsung Horrors do the commentary for the release.
Oh, hell yeah. I love Erica and Lance both so much. And um, they do fantastic work. These are
Yeah.
people I love seeing get to do supplements. Of course, Erica recently put out that amazing book, The Sweetest Taboo, about child death in movies.
Yep, yep.
I just goddess. Lance is amazing. I got to be on their show once
Hmm.
earlier this year, and that was so much fun. That was so much fun. And getting to talk like they really like I love it. I love seeing people that are like not only just like genuinely like good people, like they're nice. These are not, these are good humans, but they're also like they love the deep cut. They're celebrating the deep cut, like they're doing that hard like nitty-gritty work and getting the word out about all of these cool films that people don't really talk about.
Yep. And um, Erica did on Chinese torture chamber story one, a two. There's a she did a piece on the history of torture in China, that's amazing. Like it's so well researched, it's so well constructed. It's very very good. So yeah, big fan of Erica.
Oh, yeah. No, she is awesome. And I definitely yeah, that's always the name. Like if she's on something, it's like, oh, okay. And my bank account's like drained. Stop it.
Get away.
We gotta pay rent. Come on. I
But,
know, yeah, I know. That's unfortunately that ends up what happened. But
the other two that I wanted to call out, and then I'd be curious if there's any more that are interesting to you from this month. I'm always a big fan of the films that Connie puts out, just sort of in general.
mhm,
But every once in a while, I would say like maybe 3 to 4 times a year, they put out like a truly one of these like foundational pieces of Asian cinema, and
mhm,
they did it. They got one. They got another one. So Angie Chen, who was the first female director at Shaw Brothers Studios, they got one of her movies, which is amazing. 1984 movie called Maybe It's Love, and it's already sold 600 copies as in the first day, which I'm excited about. I hope that people get this one, because Angie Chen is a name that probably should be spoken of more. She's extremely talented and she's very kind of revolutionary for breaking through that boys' club.
Hmm. That looks okay. Yeah, you've I am pulling this up. So anybody listening, I made sure to have like a little tab so I could look at these releases with Chris. Yeah. Yeah, good. Good. The touches that are put to with even just like the design.
Yep.
Everything is so appealing on so many different levels. Um excuse me.
No,
But
you're good.
also like seeing that because that's honestly like I've always wanted to learn more about like I have a lot of cinematic blind spots
Yeah.
and there's a lot of cinematic blind spots for me, particularly with Japanese cinema and just Asian cinema in general. And
Mhm.
I've been slowly but surely kind of working through that. The like particularly this year. And so now and yeah, and of course like some of that is tied to what we're talking about because like getting the Ebola syndrome
Yeah.
and getting the untold story, which the untold story, whew,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
So fucking good. And it actually, if I knew then what I knew now, when I crowdfund, like, because I supported the crowdfund for Sweetest Taboo, um, I originally like I did the package where you get like a little, I think it's like a coaster, and I picked the one with Alice, Sweet Alice, which I
Yeah.
do love. Yeah, I mean, oh, love Alice, Sweet Alice. But if I knew then what I knew now, I would have gone for the thing with Anthony Wong.
Oh yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
love with Anthony Wong now. He's so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the Untold Story is amazing. And
Mhm.
it's crazy some of these ones that were based off true stories too. So, anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
yeah, exactly. And the other big one for me, anytime Chantal Akerman gets love, I'm very excited about it because to me, it's not fair that she's not spoken of in the same way that Godard just casually, like people can just name like four or five Godard films. Like I think
Mhm.
in my mind, Akerman should be that way. Like I think she's just such a master at the composing a story and like letting a story, like the best auteurs can kind of, you just trust them and they sort of let the story unfold and you just, even if you don't get it immediately, you just sit with them because you know it's going somewhere. And
Yeah.
she's another one of these that spoken that should be in that same light. And this is her final film, and it's a very personal film for her about all about the relationship with her mother, who was a Holocaust survivor. So
Mm.
it's just it's touching and sweet at times and sad at times, and but it's a very Chantal Akerman way of telling the story. So I can't believe that this is getting a release. And I've said this before 100 times, but it's just amazing to me that we're buying this through the Vinegar Syndrome website. I love that so much.
That is amazing. And no, and I mean, and I think that speaks to the point that it gives you something like that they've always been so good about trying, about not trying, but doing having art house. But also, I think with that, it kind of helps people, I think, better define what art house truly is. That's the thing I've always really tried to work at with the films I write about, in general, is to try and kind of get I think there's always a lot of classism
Yes.
personally with how people regard art and regard like oh like saying well like we were talking about like Caligula or Tinto Brass about art house and it's like well his latter stuff especially isn't called art house because it didn't play to a let's just say a higher ticket crowd.
Right.
If something is aimed at working class people it's automatically like oh that's not art house, that's smut or that's B movie or that's this or that. But it's like, but art house to me just means like, I mean, it technically means stuff that played in art houses. But if we're going to redefine it as we should, to me, it's like art house is something that's made artfully with a vision,
Yeah. I'm
you
trying to
know?
I think I've never really thought to define it before. I think the word the term art house and
Mhm.
the word auteur in my mind are interchangeable. Um,
Yeah. Oh, well, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one can't live without the other, right?
yeah,
So,
and that's one of the beautiful things about all like the SOV films we're talking about, and obviously Chantal Akerman fits into that too. But these are people that can hold a vision and like see it through all the way.
mhm.
They're not encumbered by studios, and it's not totally fair to say that the person who's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not an auteur. Like maybe that's not fair because there's 3,000 people that have an opinion on that movie before it gets released.
I
So
haven't heard of these. I'm sorry. I'm just being upset for
And
no.
it's
But no,
making it good.
I see your point though, and I mean, you could do the whole Duchamp thing where Duchamp always said, what is art? You point at a table. I call that, I'll call it art. Now it is art. Like it's like a transformative thing. Um, which I kind of like that approach too. I mean, but I like where you're going with that because I do think I love the fact that we live in a world where maybe something that I wouldn't, that's not art to me. You know what? If that expression genuinely moves somebody on a deep level, on a profound level,
Mm.
then I'm not gonna, I don't want to shit on that for them.
No.
It's just not for me. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, I mean, Bap. See, why am I trying to go back to Bap?
Yeah, let's,
But I mean, but for example, I think one of my favorite auteurs is Gerard Damiano,
yeah.
and he's an auteur. He is the real deal. I will go to the grave with that fight. Like, and in fact, I still bristle to this day. Like when he died, people were like, "Oh, pornographer." This man wasn't a pornographer. Like he made films that were sexually explicit, but so did Lars von Trier. I don't see them calling him a pornographer. So have a number of noted filmmakers, but they were considered art house because their stuff played to people that critics regarded as, oh, these are people that can afford college degrees. Which, for anybody European listening, like to get a college degree in art in America, you generally you either have to either get a lot of grants or go in debt, or
Yeah.
have a lot family that's got some money.
Sure.
It's a privilege. It is a privilege in a lot of ways in this country. So to have that attitude to me is kind of shitty and it's classist. And I want to see that broken down. Art is for people. Art is for all of us.
Yeah.
And Damiano to me was a working class artist. And he made films that were heavy. I mean, watching Memories Within Miss Aggie, which was released by Vinegar Syndrome. See, I get,
Yeah.
and God, I would have killed to have been on that release. But that's art. It's art. Devil Mrs. Jones is art. Skinflix is art. This man was an artist, um, and yeah, is something with explicit sex going to be for everybody? No, and that's understandable. I don't want to see a rom-com. That shit ain't for me. I don't want to see something inspiring in a sensitive, fun way. That's like, oh, gross. No, it's not for me. Don't even come at me with the Forrest Gump. I don't want to see that 20 miles near me. But has that moved and touched a lot of people? Of course, obviously it has. And that's genuinely beautiful. I'm not going to be, I don't want to be a dick about it. I may have some snark. It's all in good fun. Seriously, I hate that movie. But I mean, jesting aside, like I do love the attitude of being like, if this is art to you, if a Marvel movie is inspiring to you, generally that's beautiful. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
There's so many other artists and films that I would rather shine a light on personally.
Yeah, that's exactly we're completely aligned on that. I get shit for not liking biopics is one that I get a lot of
Mhm.
grief for because most biopics are just like a reenactment. It's not like there's nothing creative happening. It's just like let's recreate something. And to me, like I don't need to see that story. I'll just read the Wikipedia page and like I get it. Um, and then the other one is like overly sentimental films,
Oh.
like Driving Miss Daisy, I guess, is one recently I saw finally, and I was like, oh
Mm.
fuck this. But I just can't like if it's I don't know like if it's schmaltzy or I can't do it. I just if it's not how humans talk, and it's this weird unless it's like I have this weird love for Love Actually. I get it. It's like the worst example of what I'm talking about, but it's like everybody that made it knew exactly what they were making and just like went for
Mhm.
it. And to me, it gets an exception. It gets a pass in this discussion. But other
That's a well, no, I mean it's honestly everybody's got something different in their life, and there's nothing wrong with that
exactly.
at all. I will say with biopics or biopics, I've heard it's like turmeric versus
Well,
turmeric, but yeah.
yeah.
Um and this Vinegar Syndrome put this one out recently. Kinski's Paganini, which was the only film he directed.
Ooh, yeah.
That one is a fascinating approach to the biopic because it's to me it's like a fever dream, but it's also I felt like that's what I wrote about years ago when I think Maya released it on DVD. I think that was the label back then. I need to get this Blu-ray though. But it's like he's trying to encompass Paganini as a spirit into the film.
That's awesome.
It's to me, it's almost like he's trying to channel him or something. It's a really fascinating approach. It's also all natural light with candlelight.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool film. I know it's again that's obviously I know Kinski's not going to beat everybody's tea, especially as a director. Uh, but I think it's a beautiful film. I think it's a really cool film. Um,
It's
but
a Vinegar Syndrome Labs release, is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's cool. That's one
Mhm.
I've seen. If they've put out 10, I've seen 7 of them, but I haven't got to that one yet. So that's I'll make sure I see it. Um, are there any other partner labels you want to call out? I'm excited for a Hideo Gosha film. We don't hear a lot about him, but he's a director. I think if people put out more of his stuff, he would be spoken of as a good Japanese director. The release is called Cash Calls Hell. This is one of his a pretty well-known work of his from the 60s, right when Seijin Suzuki was kind of in his prime. So that's one I'm excited about. What about you? Are there any that you're excited about?
Oh God. Especially looking like having this pulled up, I almost feel bad like neglecting anybody because they all look great. Like personally, like looking at this, I know Factory 25 seems to do like a lot of cool kind of documentaries. I love a great documentary. I know they've got better than something about Jay. I know he's Canadian. Retard.
Oh, Raytard. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Retard. Yes, and in fact, and the fact that Film Movement is putting out Bent, um, which is a film I've wanted to see for a long time. I definitely want to.
Crazy.
Yeah, I definitely want to get that. And of course, as a wrestling fan, I would be remiss not to mention Canadian International Pictures because they put out that Bret Hart
Yeah,
documentary, Wrestling with
yeah, yeah,
Shadows.
yeah.
So, um, but honestly, like, God, I'm just like, if I ever like win the lottery or something, I do want to mention it actually because I have pre-ordered from May Luzine,
Mhm.
um, because they've got the early work of Ron Sullivan,
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah.
later on, when he went to adult, worked under the name Henry Pichard. But this is his early like sexploitation work. And the trailer for that, I immediately was like, oh, I need this. I need this in my life right now. It looks really great. And of course, Jennifer Wells, who was a great actress of that era. She worked both in sexploitation and later on adult. For like an earlier example of her work, she was in Joel M. Reed's Career Bed, which is a really depressing movie. It's a downer, but I love it because it is a downer. Because it's like it's one of those where you hear the term career bed and you're expecting like, oh, this is gonna be tawdry, and instead it's just nihilistic.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
totally, and Jennifer Wells is so good in it. She was such a good actress. And of course they've recently announced Sean Costello's The Passions of Carol
Uh-huh.
and Alexandra.
Well, Heather, so this has been an amazing introduction to your personality, why people I think are drawn to you when they hear you talk. I'm so glad they're getting a chance to hear more of you today. Um, I think we've covered a lot of Vinegar Syndrome releases as well as OCN partner labels and other outside releases where you're featured. Is if somebody wants to hear more of you or be around you more, do you have places online they can find you? Where do you want to direct people?
Oh, well, I have right now, that's kind of an umbrella or my various little octopus-like tentacles
Uh-huh.
in,
Uh-huh.
in weird culture. You can go to my link tree, which is linktree.com/Monto Heather. There you will find my Patreon, my website, mondoheather.com, other podcasts I appear on, articles, some of the supplement work I've been doing, as well as I recently on my YouTube channel did a video essay that's sort of a little love song / little primer to the joys and inspirational nature of grindhouse cinema.
Huh?
And I definitely am working on some more stuff to do in that vicinity. But yeah, in the meantime, yeah, just find me over at linktree.com/Mondo Heather.
Wonderful. And hopefully more Vinegar Syndrome related releases in the future.
God willing, please. Please, I'll
Everybody,
take it. I'll take
everybody,
it.
everybody hire Heather. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Heather.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Yeah, great. Talk soon.
Okay.
Y les aseguro que esta mesa, por diseño y por su nivel, les va a cambiar la vida a mejor. Les va a aportar felicidad al hogar.
Es una mierda.
¿Todo esto por la mesita, en serio? ¿Qué está pasando?
I always feel so lucky to get a chance to talk to people like Heather. Heather, thank you so much for doing that. What a great conversation. What a great person. Vinegar Syndrome, if you're listening, please hire her for more stuff. She's just awesome. And we have a special treat that I hinted at on Instagram today, because she has not one but two releases featured this month. Erica Schultz of many things, including Unsung Horrors and Film Historian, and just all around badass. Thank you so much for coming in for a few minutes.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. We've been talking about this for a while because you don't get insight into when your releases are dropping, but I'm so glad that two hit at once.
Yeah, no, I never know. I mean, I have, one that I have an essay that I wrote like back in February, and I'm like, is that ever coming out? Like, I don't know. Like, I just, you lose track, and then it comes out and you're like, oh, okay, got to promote,
No.
yeah. So I mean, I suppose I could ask. I just don't. I'm just, I don't know. I just like, it'll come out when it comes out. Like,
When it hits.
yeah.
If it's okay, excuse me, if it's okay, I'd like to talk about the coffee table first, because I'm really interested in this label. After Altered Innocence left, there was not a label that specifically called out a focus on LGBTQ plus cinema.
Mhm.
So it's cool that OCN has one now, again, Cinephobia. Do you know much about the label at all? Were you working with the people in the label a bit for the release?
No, not directly. I worked with Justin Low Liberty on it because he handles a lot of the production and producing of some of the discs for that. So I know that they're kind of like all over the place, like self-admittedly though. And one of their focuses is queer cinema, but also just like some really fucked up stuff. So I feel like it's like Altered Innocence meets oh God, what's the one that released? Oh my God.
Are you thinking of another
blanking.
partner label?
No. Just like the one that did
Massacre Video or something?
no, oh God. Ugh. Whoops. No, the one that released Untold Story and a Serbian film.
Oh, Unearthed.
Thank you, Unearthed.
Yeah.
So I think Cinephobia is like Altered Innocence meets Unearthed. Like
Wow.
it's got really fucked up shit, like The Coffee Table, which is an excellent movie. Outside of like it being really fucked up. Like I think if you have a child, I probably am not your friend because I wrote a book about kids dying in movies.
Sure.
And that's really like what got me the sort of opened the door. Like Justin approached me and was like, hey, you haven't seen this yet. I know because it's a new film. I don't tend to watch new films. I'm usually stuck in like, 90s or earlier, even
High five
90s.
on that one.
Yeah, but he had messaged me and he was like, hey, would you be interested in contributing to this? And I was like, I'll watch it and I'll let you know. And, you know, when I do like new films, they tend to be foreign films. And this is a Spanish film directed by Calle Casas. I pulled my co-host from the podcast Unsung Horrors and Lance Scheibe to do it with me. And we had a great time talking about, you know, Bambakina, who did the score for it. And I actually was messaging with the director, Calle Casas, and I asked him a bunch of questions about like killing kids, and that was super fun. And you know, I'll teach you about you know, Spanish omelets in the commentary, and I'll get into a lot of like doomsday shit about, you know, population control and like killing kids. Like, you know, we got a little bit of everything in there. So I hope people enjoy the film. I think it's a really great film. It's a super, super dark comedy. But I hope you enjoy the commentary as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Sold me on super dark comedies. I have a particular like interest in people that can do that, pull that off well.
Yeah.
That's a very hard line to walk, I think.
Yeah.
Very opposite end of the spectrum, I think, is a film that I'm very excited to see you on, because I know you have a love for Asian cinema in general, but like, you know, especially a lot of I think it's a Hong Kong film, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Woman on the Run came out as well. You want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So, Women on the Run, I think a lot of people think Cat 3 first, but really I look at it as like a, you know, in the girls with guns genre. And I watched a lot of girls with guns movies for this. So, the essay itself is really more of an overview of the genre, but really sort of starts picking up on tropes and familiar faces that you see throughout the genre. And then it sort of ends with this particular film and like ties it into some of those tropes that you'll see within the genre itself. But my elevator pitch for this movie is it's Hong Kong Thelma and Louise.
Hell yeah.
That's it. Like, I mean, if you're not sold on that, then, you know, the director is Corey Yuen, who is, you know, very well known. We found out he passed like during COVID, but we only found out recently about it. But, you know, his work is fantastic. So there's a lot of great action in it. It can get a little, you know, dicey with some sexual assault in it, but if you watch Cat 3 films, that's nothing new. So,
unfortunately, yeah, it's part of it.
yeah, I mean, just expect it. It's gonna be in there. If it's got a Cat 3 label on it from Hong Kong, it's gonna happen. So yeah, I definitely recommend folks picking it up. I know it's not going to be available when this episode drops, but you know, come January, come the next sale, you know, throw it in there. It's a lot of fun. Especially if you like any kind of action films from the 90s, I think anyone would really enjoy this one.
Oh yeah. Well, this is a big treat just to get you on for a few minutes. Thanks for selling these films. Thanks, Erica.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Talk
Of course.
soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Awesome. What a fun surprise. Thanks, Erica, for joining. And let's see what's left. Merch mates. Ryan, Jeremy, tell us what's going on this month with the merch.
Welcome back, merch mates. How we doing, Jeremy?
You stole my bit. Good to be back, me merch mate, Ryan.
Well, it is one of the best times of the year for everybody. The Black Friday sales are intense. This year seems overwhelming on a myriad of different levels, especially with stuff selling out after only 39 hours. But let's get into the merch selection that has come up during this sale. First, the Gausser. We have 3 different VHS variants. How many of those 3 did you purchase, sir?
I purchased 0.
That is somehow more than I expected. We got the Beastmaster. We've got Fade to Black.
-1.
I mean, maybe, you never know. You might be able to sell Vinegar Syndrome 1.
I'm very tempted by the Cannibal the Musical one, I have to admit. I have very few VHSs in my collection.
And even less that light up.
Well, oh, that's true. I forgot that they light up. Well, maybe I'll have to buy it for just that reason.
So we have the Beastmaster, we have Fade to Black, and we have Cannibal the Musical. of these. Any thoughts on the art or the way that they how are putting these out?
I like all the art, actually. I mean, aside from the fact that two of them light up, the one that I would maybe get just because I like the film so much is Cannibal the Musical.
Sir, they all light up. Don't lie to our listeners.
Oh, I didn't see that they were. Sorry.
All of the Gausser VHS releases are deluxe LED VHS releases.
Well, you see, the LED for Cannibal the Musical is on a separate line, and my eyes don't go down that far.
What a fair excuse. I got to admit, I am not a fan of the Fade to Black art. We also, for the first time in a long time,
I love our brutal honesty on Merchmate.
We have to. We got a brand new hoodie, a Medusa skull hoodie, which, funny enough, Severin Films is selling a Medusa branded item this month as well. Coincidence? Yeah, absolutely. There's no conspiracy there. But hey, this is pretty nice. If I needed a zippered hoodie and one could fit over my giant fat body, this might be one I would choose.
This hoodie. I already have too many hoodies that I don't wear already, but I do like the art on it a lot, and always been a big fan of Medusa. I have didn't they put out a shirt at one point with the Medusa thing?
Yes, it wasn't this exact design, but it was a similar theme. And on that note, many of the designs this month are like skulls, I'm a badass type of designs. And I got to admit, I had a friend. I had a friend, shout out to Daniel if he's listening to this, that texted me and said, I wish Vinegar Syndrome would release a shirt I could wear. I can't pull off the satanic vibes. And I just laughed because none of these feel satanic.
Not only that, but the majority of their shirts aren't that. It just happens that this month is all skulls and stuff.
I say that none of them feel satanic, but one of them is legitimately, blatantly satanic. We'll get to that in just a minute. From VS Press, they put out some screen prints of this skull design in different colors, and then this very holographic rainbow screen print that looks pretty damn rad. I don't think you and I have ever talked about the posters. Have you ever been one to pick up the posters from VS or anybody like this?
First of all, I really do like this rainbow one a lot more than the other one, I'll say. No, much like the amount of hoodies I have in my closet that I don't wear, I also have way too many posters and things hung up already and running out of wall space. So I do not collect the screen prints and would not know where to put them or what to do with them, even though I think this one looks beautiful, the rainbow holographic screen print.
I used to collect many of them, but I got to admit my closet right now resembles many Californians in the late 80s, and it's very tubular. Did that joke work? I don't know.
We'll let it slide.
Yeah, I was definitely...
You won back the Fade to Black artist.
Hell yeah. Thank goodness he stopped cutting himself. I really enjoy these posters, and I'm definitely tempted by both of them. I have never been able to be a skater, though, but they're releasing a skate deck with this Vinegar Syndrome sculluloid design that they're using. My only question is, man, $85, is that common price for a skate deck from a company like Vinegar Syndrome and not one that's putting huge engineering money into really great skate decks?
You know, what's extra funny is when I first saw this, I automatically thought it was one of those, that you do with your fingers, those little ones that the kids, what I'm talking about. What do they call those?
Yeah, fingerboards.
Oh yeah, is that what they're called?
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's a board, and you use your
or a tech deck is the common brand.
Oh yeah, that's the word I was thinking about. I remember the term tech deck from when I was a kid, and those were popular. And I was extra confused about the price. I was like, $85 for a little finger thing.
$85 for a Vinegar Syndrome branded tech deck would be absolute insanity.
I'm not a skateboarder, never have been, but never will be. Or as Justin Bieber says, never say never. So, but I wouldn't know if this is common price or not, to be honest.
All right, on to shirts. We've got two different versions of this Vinegar Syndrome sculluloid design. One on a classic black shirt, one in a maroon shirt. Both, again, good design. I really kind of want one of these. And then we got this Cosmic Terror shirt, the same design that was on the print that we just talked about. This one is coming on a eggshell cream color shirt, and then we have a yellow one that they're calling a vinegar variant. Of those two, are you getting any of these? You leaning towards any of them?
I wasn't going to get any of these, and now I'm very tempted. I admit prior to recording this segment, I didn't thoroughly look through everything quite yet.
Classic Jeremy, yeah.
But yellow is my favorite color, and I really do like that design, as previously mentioned in the screen print. Very tempting. Very, very tempting. I don't know what I'll do. I hate to sound like a broken record, but much like my wall space and my hoodies, I also have too many shirts, specifically Vinegar Syndrome shirts. I think I could wear a different Vinegar Syndrome shirt every day and not repeat for at least half the month, if not more. So I don't know. Do I need another Vinegar Syndrome shirt? No. Do I want this yellow one? Yes. So we'll see.
Next, we don't get many of these, but they did a release-specific shirt. This one is for the 3 films from Ruben Galindo Jr. that also got the variant slipcovers released this time. This is the one that is blatantly satanic. There is a pentagram on the front, and I really dig the design on this shirt. If I was able to defend those shirts more, I might be able to purchase that one, but I'm probably going to stay away from this one.
You know what I noticed? No vaginas on any of these shirts this month.
I know. It's quite a dry month. I don't get it.
They're slipping.
Well, not anymore. Sorry.
I don't know. I haven't seen these movies yet. I do like the design, but I wouldn't wear something that I haven't, seen and /support. So aside from liking the design, I have no further comment on that shirt. What's you getting any of these, by the way? You keep asking.
I sure am not.
Okay, keep going.
I really want like 4 of them though. Cinematograph, we got 2 different shirts this month. We've got the Beyond the Infinite shirt that they're doing, which again is one of the more cream color white shirts, and then the You'll Shoot Your Eye Out shirt, which is a very funny Santa Claus inspired shirt. Love the design scheme on the Beyond the Infinite shirt, one that I would wear a lot. I really dig that one. I might keep an eye on that coming up.
Yeah, I like both of these. I mean, they're really killing it with the shirts. Again, it's not a question of me liking them. It's a question of closet space and having too many. Although I only have one Cinematograph shirt, and it was their, that camp one?
The Ringer tee.
Yeah, so, maybe I'll pick up one of these. I don't know. The cream one is very tempting, and also back to that yellow Vinegar Syndrome shirt, because yellow is my favorite color. So we'll see what I end up doing.
And then we bring ourselves to the fun little gadgets and all that crap that we get during a lot of these sales. First, we got 2 enamel pins. These are both Congo inspired. One is a gorilla face with VS emboldened on the forehead. And then the other one is a volcano erupting. And at the bottom, it is literally saying Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday 2024.
Oh.
I got to be honest. I don't see the purpose in branding a sale to a point where you want a customer to purchase like a memorial pin to commemorate a sale.
Yeah, it's
that
not like...
feels hyper capitalist to me.
Yeah, it does. Which, you know how much I hate capitalism. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt from the New Beverly that says Annual Horathon 2024. But that's something you want to remember. So that's
right.
That's a branding that's like, yeah, people are going to get that, and many people did. I don't know how many people are buying these pins, but you're right. Branding a sale versus branding an event or something like that does seem a little overboard.
The next item is a Congo-inspired patch that they're doing for this year. And this one's quite a bit better. It's just got the name of the label and the year around the gorilla head. That brings up, did you pick up Congo? Are you a Congo fan?
And in the very bottom of this patch, it says, "Fuck you, Ryan Verrill."
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
I did pick up Congo. I haven't seen it in years, but I mean, I pick up most Vinegar Syndrome's titles.
I think what you mean is all. Let's go to the next item. The next item is a Vinegar Syndrome branded Christmas card, which...
Wait. Are you getting the patch of the pins?
Am I? No.
I know you're a big pin guy. I remember talking about that before.
I have pin boards displayed on my movie room wall. The
Indeed.
problem is they are full. I'm not buying pins for the foreseeable future.
Especially if they say Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday sale 2024 on the bottom. Okay, on to the
Let's
Christmas.
get to those Christmas cards because I got to be honest, this might be my favorite item of this entire sale. I really like that they're doing this. I think this is really smart. I think at $3, it's cheap enough to make somebody go, damn, I kind of want like 14 of those, which is great because they're probably going to make good money on it for selling it for $3.
Yeah.
I like how they put the logo into the Christmas tree, made it look nice. The inside is great if you follow the Melusine side of things. What do you think of the Christmas card?
I love it. I think, I mean, if I sent Christmas cards, I would probably pick them up just to be very different and unique with my Christmas cards that I send out instead of getting, crappy traditional ones from Target. But I don't. But I do like it, and I like, I think it's very creative out of all the past, holiday-themed items that they've done. I think this is a very practical, creative one for them to do.
It is. The funniest part to me, though, is nobody will get them until probably December 15th or 18th at the absolute earliest, except for maybe some subscribers. So the hard part is you're not going to be able to use them this year.
That's a good point. I was going to
Would
say,
have loved to have seen those in October.
I should have put them up last month, but then it wasn't the Black Friday sale, so I don't know.
Yep. October would have been perfect for that, probably.
Oh, boy.
Then we got some stickers going on. Love me some Vinegar Syndrome stickers. Usually pretty good designs. Like these quite a bit. They also copy one of the designs for a slip mat. You listen to vinyl at your house. You ever rock any of their slip mats?
I don't. I do rock a lot of vinyl at my house. I have 2 record players, one in my room and one in the living room, and they both have slip mats on them already. One that will not be replaced, which is a Weird Al slip mat. The other one that I could replace, because it's just an Audio Technica slip mat that I got when I got the record player. But so yeah, something like this to rock a Vinegar Syndrome slip mat would be cool. I'd consider it. How much is that? $8? Perhaps, Ryan. Perhaps.
All right. Next is they've got a variant of their Now Playing logo stand. I know that you've got an even fancier customized Now Playing stand, but I could definitely see the appeal behind these. I've been one that's got the recent arrival stand in my room that I've used quite a few times, so I definitely get the appeal behind this. This is pretty nice. I wish, shout out to all labels here. If you were looking for more merch ideas, I would love more stuff like this, but brand it for something that we can use in our collection rooms. Most people following these labels have collections for all kinds of labels. Give us, I would love if each label put out dividers for their company, even if they were like
that too.
Emblazoned with your logo, and you gave us genres listed on 7 or 8 of them, and your company name on one of them. That would be super rad.
As speaking as someone who has my Vinegar Syndrome shelf separated by, of course, Vinegar Syndrome proper and partner labels, and then the partner labels are separated by partner label, I would love some dividers like that. That'd be really great to be able to put those in there. You're right about, I really like the sleek design on this stand for sure. It's I think it actually might be nicer than the other one that they had done previously. But as you mentioned, I have my own custom made sign, so I will not be purchasing this one.
Another one I like is the Degausser Christmas ornament here. Fun design, little VHS tape, good branding for something that's literally only been around for like a year at this point, but I like it. I think this is, the 3rd or 4th Christmas ornament that we've got, if you count the partner labels ones that we've had now. I really like these. Again, practical ways to share our love for the hobby and support is super nice in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea of it. I'm not one that goes all out for Christmas, to be honest. So I don't really put up decorations or a tree here at my place. I'm also usually back in my hometown in Pennsylvania visiting for the holidays. My mom puts up a tree, but wouldn't make much sense, I don't think, to bring this back to her. I don't know. But otherwise, I do like it. I really like the idea and the concept, and it's very cute.
Final piece is the Eight Eyes LP. Did you watch Eight Eyes yet?
I have not watched it yet. No, it's on my
It's
shelf.
a decent movie. I really enjoyed the score, and I think people will appreciate that if they check it out. I think it's a good choice. I'm glad they're putting it out there and get more eyes on the movie, and yeah, it's a win for everybody.
I like the cover art on that vinyl too. It looks great.
All right, Jeremy, final thoughts on the sale overall. We didn't talk about any of the titles really, but how are you feeling about Vinegar Syndrome this time?
Well, Ryan, the sale will be really great this year. No, I mean, they released some really great stuff. The Keep and Cannibal, the musical, 2 titles that I've been highly anticipating, both sold out like that.
And Good Bar's on its way out at the time of this recording, and Sliver's doing very well. Could dip under 1,000 before the end of the weekend.
Yeah, I'd argue that title-wise, it's one of their best sales in a while. I mean, these things are flying off the shelves.
I mean, I got to be honest. If you are only looking at, obscurity of titles that people have said are impossible to get, being able to do Looking for Mr. Goodbar, The Keep, and Cannibal the Musical at the same time in the same month is quite an astonishing feat, and one that absolutely should not be overlooked, especially in the upcoming Shelf Shock Rewind Awards. Check that out, coming soon.
Oh, little plug. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's a banger sale for them. I'm looking forward to getting these in the mail and watching them. Super stoked to check out the restoration on The Keep. And excited for Partner Labels Month coming up, too. We got that dropping tomorrow morning. A whole bunch of new titles, including Hundreds of Beavers, which I'm super stoked about. And probably a bunch of other array of things that'll sell out fast and that I'll buy. So looking forward to it.
Well, at that rate, it seems like next time we will talk with all of you is probably January during Subscriber Week at some point. Until next time, avast ye landlubbers, ho!
And don't forget to walk.
Thank you, Ryan and Jeremy, for that. And well, y'all, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, 9 episodes in, we have something I'm really excited about coming up in mid-December. We're going to do a year-end review with somebody that I guarantee has seen more Vinegar Syndrome titles than you, and a few special guests. So can't wait, and have a wonderful time until we meet again.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
I am Adam Lundy, the host of the Radiance Films podcast, a show that is dedicated to all things Radiance Films. Join me every month as myself and some varied and interesting guests sit down to discuss the latest releases and announcements from Radiance Films, now part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.